All right, Paul. So in the last video, I talked a little bit about building an intelligent shoulder, kind of activating those small muscle groups. All right, maybe stretching out some of the muscles that are, maybe bound up, especially the chest. This is going to be more of a mobility exercise, and especially if you're having issues in those larger muscle groups, and that's what's kind of causing the problem, that imbalance we talked about in the last video. This is both an assessment and an exercise. I'm going to give you variations. So this is an exercise called the serving teacup drill, and it comes from a Chinese martial art called Bagua. And like most things in Chinese culture, there's a legend attached to it. And the reason it's called the serving teacup drill is it comes from this legend of this gentleman who was a servant at a palace. And the emperor observed him moving through the crowd with trays of food around, or actually specifically trays of tea, around all the guests in this spectacular fashion. And it turns out that this man is this incredible martial arts master. And for some reason, he's working as a servant. Anyway, long story short, that little diatribe there is going to help you understand how to do the exercise. And really, you want to pretend, there's something in your hand. And it's called the serving teacup drill because in the story, Dong Hai Chen, the gentleman who's, doing this thing, he's holding teacups and they're not spilling, despite the fact that he's moving through this incredibly dense crowd. All right. So, if you like tea, you don't want to spill tea. If you're me, I'm going to pretend there's whiskey in the cup, right? I don't want to spill that. So in any event, you're going to pretend there's something in your hand you don't want to spill. So the hand has to remain flat. Now, there's a lot of ways you can approach this drill, but ultimately it's going to test all of those different muscles I talked about in that last video. And if you keep the hand flat, right, and you test your range of motion, you're going to really work all of them. You're also going to stretch all those larger muscles I talked about in the last video: lat, pec, trap. Okay. Interestingly enough, when you do this, you may or may not be able to do this. You might have what I call dead spots. So when you're trying to diagnose a shoulder issue, especially rotator cuff, to try to figure out what's going on, you're going to have specific spots of pain. You may not be able to do this, or you may have to limit the range of motion. I want you to be a detective here. You're good at that, right? You're good at that with people's minds. This is the same thing, but with the body. Let's try to figure out exactly where it is you have your issues and your pain. And this drill will do it, because you're going to hit just about every range of motion there is. So you're going to pretend there's something in your hand. Back up so you can see everything. All right. The first movement is you raise the elbow and bring the hand under the armpit. The hand goes out to the side. And again, the palm remains flat and up. From here, you sweep in front and around the body. I'm going to shuffle so you can see. All right. And you come over the head. As you come over the head, you come behind the body, open up the chest here, and back to the starting position. Okay. So once again, quicker and more fluid. Elbow up, under the armpit, hand out, in front and around and over the body, behind the body, and then back in front. Okay. Try it with nothing. See if anything hurts, right? Depending on what hurts, maybe we can make a diagnosis. I'm going to do it more fluidly. Now, there's two ways you can do it, right? There's the very strict fashion and then what I call like a drunken fashion. And I'll show you what I mean. All right. Now, if I do it strictly, and this requires a greater degree of shoulder health and strength, as well as mobility, I'm not going to move my body at all. Very flat. Like so. Stretching the lat here, stretching the pec here. All right. As I come around, I stretch the back of the shoulder. Okay. Now, I can also, if I have a hard time with that, and if you especially have a hard time getting it up or whatever the case might be, you can use your body to create more space in the shoulder. So as I come down, I will bend forward. Now I don't have to lift as high here. So now it's a little more forgiving, specifically on that muscle we talked about, that supraspinatus here. Now as I come around, I can leverage by kicking out my hip, leaning my torso, and now I don't have to stretch my lat as much, see? And I'm bending my elbow a little bit. My hand's still flat. So it's a little more forgiving. All right? Let me demonstrate them fluidly. All right? Strict. You see it does have a very martial arty type of movement to it. And drunken. You think I might be good at this one? Now there's other variations, But that one itself is, you could do doubles. There's reverse, much harder, okay? And then I kind of came up with other variations, alternating ones, and so on and so forth. If you can do it, and you could do it well, this can turn into an exercise that will strengthen all 4 of those rotator cuff muscles. What you need is a very small weight, okay? They're small muscles, they don't need much resistance. This is just a 2.5 pounder. I do this specifically to warm up for my kettlebell work, believe it or not. Well, let's use the bad shoulder. So same deal, nothing changes, flat palm. Now, as I go through these ranges, I have to hold up this tiny resistance, all right? So as I go through the motions, each one of those positions, one of those 4 muscles is being taxed, okay? So you can use this in a couple different ways. One is an assessment, find out where things hurt. 2, you can use it to mobilize the shoulder joint, stretch the larger muscle groups that it could be tight. 3, you can use it with weight, and that'll help you actually build strength in those smaller muscle groups. Okay, so that's another one you can try. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and I can hopefully answer them for you. All right, so there's 2 good drills you can do if you're still working out, if you have access to a gym, or you just work at your house, whatever, or even if not, you find something you can hold for the arm bar and this. All right, so that's 2 tools you can use for assessment, and I'll see if I can give you a couple more.